Hey, hey, what is going down? Oh my God, we're here.
What up? What up?
This music is so pumping. I feel like we need to
Very
like jam
energetic.
for like, right? That's so funny. Okay, you guys, hey, we are here. I don't know about you, but sometimes it feels like things are just moving and grooving, regardless of whether or not you have decided you are there for it. Oh my God. How are you doing today, Eden?
I'm doing great. Just hopping between meetings and trying to get things done.
I hear you. I hear you. And today we are here with our next episode, perhaps the last episode of the season, but not forever,
Just the season, just the season.
of TLDR with Eden and Ella. And we are talking today about the relevancy of virtual events. Is it still relevant in today's world? We're going to ask those questions and answer those questions in our short show today. But first, if you're joining us live, then let us know that you're here with a hashtag live. And if you're watching us in the replay, then give us a hashtag replay. And if you are watching in the replay and you're like, man, I want to know when they're going live so that I can like add the comments and say all the things while they're there, then go ahead and get the reminders, get on the list so that you know when we are going live. Yeah. Thank you. I love your Vanna White point.
I was like, where is it?
But in every show, we're talking about tech, events, mindset, all the things, and we're doing that in 15 minutes or less. And today we're talking about whether or not virtual events are really still relevant in today's world. Now that the world is back open, people are going back to in person events, people are excited about in person events. I went actually to my first in person event since
Oh,
2019 yesterday.
exciting. Ooh. How did it go? Like, how
It
was
went
the in-person feeling versus being virtual over the last 3 years?
It's interesting because it revealed something for me, especially thinking about a post that a friend of mine on LinkedIn posted about networking and some things like that. And I said to a couple of the people that I was there with, sometimes networking can feel really, really overwhelming for
Yes.
a lot of people, whether it's virtual or in person. And I recognized, don't tell anybody, y'all. This is between just you and I, okay? I recognized that when it comes to networking, as much of a social butterfly as people think I am, I said to the people I was talking to, I said, notice where I've been for the last 45 minutes. I have not flitted around the room. I have I've met a couple of people, but I found the people that I enjoyed and I stayed right there.
I think that's actually a good approach because networking is not about quantity, it's about quality. It's much more meaningful to say go to an event and build even just 3 actual meaningful connections versus talking to every single person in the room.
Yeah, it's true. And I found so much value in talking to those two people. And we're clearly that's there's another side to that when it comes to virtual, because sometimes people think that because you're meeting virtually that you can't have a valuable networking element to your event because it's virtual and you can't roam the room, as it were. But maybe you can. Maybe you can.
I feel like I've seen this sort of implemented in various virtual event platforms. Like I know AirMeet, for example, definitely has networking spaces set up. So it's like 4 people to a table.
Mm-hmm.
And you can basically just have open conversations and you're able to move around from room to room. I will say though, when it comes to networking at virtual events, in my experience, this has to be a very intentional um, action by everyone that is trying to network. Like in
Yes.
person, I feel like you're able to just stand around in a group with people and kind of listen to see where the conversation is going before jumping in. Maybe you don't have anything relevant to say, but you still got to shake someone's hand. And in person, that's fine. But if you go to a networking session that's virtual and you are just going to plan to not even have your camera on or not have anything that you're finding that you want to add to the conversation, I feel like that's not going to be as meaningful of an outcome, because you don't get to shake anyone's hand when you're meeting
Right.
virtually.
Right.
Like, you don't get to make eye contact and have that firm handshake grip that we are taught that as a first impression is very important when networking. In person, some people just have a presence, and if they're not able to translate that to virtual networking, then virtual networking might not be that constructive for them.
Right. And I think that to that point, some of that is on the shoulders of the person that's putting that networking event together. Because if you have
Absolutely.
not been intentional about how you are putting those rooms together, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it always has to be like these people are going in a specific room, but it does mean that you have to be intentional about how you put people into those rooms and how you instruct them to engage in those rooms. I mentioned to someone
Yes.
that was my friend that was talking about networking for the events that he's gone to and has planned, and we were saying that, I said people don't know how to network. It's just because we've gotten grown and become adults, we suddenly assume that everyone knows how to network, and people don't. People
No,
don't,
not at
whether it's
all.
virtual or in person.
You're told, like, your whole life, well, at least in, like, college, I would say, you're told all through college how important networking is, but there's not very much guidance given. And in my first few years of networking, honestly, when I was working professionally, when I was like 24, 25, I what I thought was networking felt kind of gross to me. Like, I just
Mhm.
always felt like I was trying to either not sell someone something directly, but I felt like if I didn't have something to bring to the table and give any person a reason to talk to me, that it would be like a waste of their time.
Right.
And so networking to me, like, just had a negative connotation in my head for a long time. I will say, when I joined this sort of tech space in the audio video sort of industry, that I have found networking to be a lot more meaningful and robust. I
Mhm.
don't know if that's because this is 20 years later and we all know what we're doing a little bit better when it comes to networking. 10 years. Sorry, I'm not that old. I was like,
But I am.
did I just age myself? But now it feels like in my head, I'm just building a relationship.
And
And
that's just it. That's what it is, and I think that's why virtual is still important,
yes,
because it allows us to be able to build relationships with people that may not even be in the same town. And it also allows us to build relationships, even if we find that we're going to be close to each other. This event that I went to last night, it just so happened that I met the person through another person that I networked with virtually who said, "Hey, you need to meet so and so." And
yeah,
so we had a virtual conversation, even though he lives 40 minutes away from me. We could have met in person, but it was so much easier for us to just meet that way because we don't know each other from Adam just yet. Do we
yeah.
want to meet in person just yet? And that's the other thing about virtual. You have you have boundaries that you don't
Yes,
necessarily have in person, because
totally.
you can decide whether or not you want to let somebody into your space, your physical space. You can shut things down a little easier when when it comes to being in virtual. And I know that people are like, "Well, I don't want them to see my house." Well, frame your camera so they can't. So,
Yeah, find a blank wall. Find a wall. It doesn't even have to be blank. Find a wall with some pictures behind it, or a
right?
bookshelf. Like, a bookshelf is a great option. And I just want to add on there. I ran into a situation at a conference a couple of years ago where someone I did network with and had a meaningful conversation with, but it was like, great, it was nice to meet you. We're just gonna still do their own thing. They ended up sort of finding me at every single session in every room and every conversation I was in throughout the rest of the conference. And honestly, like, as a female, this was a guy, and it just made me like really uncomfortable. And I will say that, like, based on the first conversation I had with him, I was like, this is someone that I feel like could be valuable in my network and that we should keep keep having conversations. But by the end of the conference, like I was so sick of him because
Yeah.
I just felt like I didn't have any space. I was like, I want to kind of do my own thing
Yeah.
and find my own people and like just I don't want to have a tag along. I don't even know you that well, man. So I can totally relate to having like boundaries. And
Yeah.
just another example of virtual networking. Me and you met through virtual networking.
We have never been in actual person, but we have been friends and now podcast
Now we do
partners.
yeah, now we do shows together. Yeah.
For so now, and it's been two. How long did we
Almost
say?
2
2
years,
years.
almost 2 years, yeah, because
2
you were one of the
years.
first conversations I had when I started the job, almost 2 years ago, so
That's so crazy. That's so virtual. I feel is so important for so many reasons. And in the last minute of our time together, when it comes to virtual events and asking yourself if they're really relevant in today's world and we can go back to in-person events, I think that there are a number of things that you should and can consider. And first of all, I want you to think about, I'm gonna just give you three today because there are a lot of things to think about, but three things specifically. The first one is accessibility, because in today's world, before the pandemic, before the world shut down and reopened again, there were people that were not able to come to your event for various reasons, whether it be a physical reason, mental reason, financial reason, whatever those reasons were, they weren't able to get to your event, and those reasons have not gone away. But
yep,
now that virtual has become something that was well known, because it wasn't as if people want to believe that virtual started because of COVID. It didn't. Virtual was going on before COVID.
but COVID did boost it up a lot and put it in
Right.
front of a lot of people that did not previously know about live streaming or virtual events, like, this is it like, we were all forced out of our comfort zones and into the virtual space a lot more than we were before. But
Exactly.
yes, it definitely
Exactly.
existed before. I would just say that COVID gave it the COVID boost.
Right. It gave it a COVID boost. Wait a minute. Does that?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if that's the best way to
Hmm.
phrase it, but
The second thing I want you to consider is that virtual events really do extend your community engagement if you play your cards right. This does not mean that you can just have a virtual event and suddenly your community is now engaged and extended. It's not how it works. You have to plan for these things. As Eden said earlier, you have to be intentional, whether it be networking, whether it be the content, whether it be the speakers, whether it be the attendees. All of it has to be intentional so that you can get the value that really is there when it comes
yeah.
to having a virtual event, a virtual meeting, a virtual whatever it happens to be. Those things are incredibly important. And lastly, when it comes to considering whether you should have your event in person or whether you should do your event virtual, this is really my favorite thing to consider, and that is both. At this point, at this stage of the game, I really do not believe that it should be either or. It
Yeah.
really should be both and. Does that mean that it has to be a hybrid? No. But does it mean that you should have both in your strategy? Probably yes. Probably
Yeah,
yes.
and it doesn't have to be a full-on hybrid experience if you're not sure that you are able to make it as meaningful for the remote attendees versus the in-person ones, but you can always film sessions and you can always put them out and as offer value to the people that couldn't make it to the event. There's still ways to get your content in front of people that want it, but it was not accessible to them
Right.
by whether it was like the event was too far away, just wasn't in the budget for this quarter. But
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. And it's about knowing your audience and knowing what the options are and just the delivery of it.
And being intentional with that,
Yep.
because if you have that in mind, there is a particular way that you're going to film that session. There's a particular way you're going to think about how all of those things come together so that they're useful for you in the long run afterwards. Nothing that that you're doing with your events, whether it be virtual or in person, should be one and done. Those are useful long after the event is over. And with that, friends, look, I told you we were going to be in, we're going to be out, and there's so many things. There's always so many things that we think about, like once we get on. Once we get onto the show in this very short show that we want to talk
But
about.
this show is basically sort of the teaser. We're just giving you the main points that you need, and we can always think about a deeper dive. Maybe Ella will write a blog article. I can't volunteer her for any of that, but I'm just saying there's a deeper conversation to be had. We just kind of wanted to know what your thoughts were, so feel free to leave us a comment on your experiences, whether they were virtual or in person, and what you've noticed and how it's shifted.
Exactly. Thanks so much for being with us here today. If you've been with us live, I saw some of you kind of in there with us live. And if you're here with us in the replay, thank you on both of those accounts. And we will see you very, very soon. If you want to know when TLDR is coming back, we're taking a break. We're taking a break for the summer because the summer is coming. We're coming back in the fall. If you want to know when all that's happening, make sure that you get your reminders, get on the list so that you know when we're coming back. And this is not necessarily the last episode of things coming from Beyond Virtual Events. We have our last episode of the season of the Business Breakout happening next week, May 17th at 1 p.m. EST. And we hope to see you there. Remember, that's an event that you can actually be on the screen with us, be in the actual audience.
They're a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Well, we hope to see you around sometime in the very near future. Remember that everything that you do can go far beyond. We'll see you next time. Bye.